It's not about what you have. It's about who you have. It's not about where you live. It's about how you live. And it's not about what you do. It's about why you do it. Welcome to the Momentasize Podcast. Ooh-hoo-hoo. Today, with today's guest, we are going to dive deep. There are going to be golden nuggets in here for you if you want to understand what it takes to systematize and scale a business operation. We're really going to dive deep into how it was done in the ground up game, but even more in a technology-based company called Fuel Point with my great friend, Cody Tuma. Please help me welcome him to the podcast. Cody, last time we were on, we were able to talk about your business and what would happen. Today, I really want to talk about the scale side of things. I know your first ground up deal you did, you started with one, and then very quickly within the same year, you scaled that to 10 ground up projects. Can you just break that down for us?
Yeah, 100%. Well, I'm glad to be back, Dirk. This is awesome being back here. But yeah, so just to kind of go over of how I originally got that first deal, right? I had noticed kind of a spot, an area of the market that I was like, okay, I feel like there's some potential here. I did a flip and now let me try some ground up. I see some vacant lots here. I see some new construction that, seems like some people are making some money on. How can I potentially get into this and do it myself? So found that lot and I honestly just went into public records and just started finding out who owned that piece of land and skip trace the property owner. I have no idea what I'm doing, but I'm trying to figure these things out as I go. And I find the guy and I actually make a deal with him and we put something together on it. And this was at the beginning of COVID time. So I was real nervous if this deal was going to come together or not. And I ended up making $100K on this first deal. And that's when I was like, okay, I got to figure out how to scale this thing. So rather than just spending all of my own time, doing all the calls, I was like, okay, maybe I should just start sending these people letters and stuff. So I actually just started doing a huge direct mailing campaign to this entire subdivision and just started just blanketing, just sending them letter after letter. And then on top of that, I would also follow up with phone calls and stuff too. And that's what allowed me to get more pieces of land under my belt. But then I had to figure out okay, I don't have the funding to do all of this on my own. Yeah. So now I have to figure out, okay, where can I find more funds besides just my own? So then I was reaching out to friends and family and figuring out okay, who wants to invest in these deals? And then I started making these spreadsheets. I had no idea how to make a pro forma, but the investors wanted to see what the returns and stuff are going to be on that. So I had to put that together and just by basically putting in some of those systems allowed me to scale to, do more deals.
Yeah. I think it's what I love about that story in general is you saw an opportunity, you went for it. You, like you said, I didn't even know what you were doing. You're probably YouTubing how to skip trace. You do the skip trace, you get the first deal done. And a lot of people might be happy with that first deal, be focused on hey, I just made $100K. That's great. And they would maybe look for a new neighborhood or whatever they would do. But you instead said, hey, okay, I made $100K. I need to now double down. And you just started pushing for it. You said, how can I scale my time first and foremost? Because it probably took a ton of time doing the cold call skip trace. That didn't really work really great. Now you're I'm going to send direct mail to this entire neighborhood. There's great opportunity here. I have proof. And boom, you just started figuring it out. I mean, you used a great system to go from one house to building 10 houses within a year, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It was within 12 months.
Yeah, I mean, it also takes a special mind to do that, right? To be able to go from hey, I got one done to now I'm going to do 10. That's the Grant Cardone, his famous 10X mindset. You really adopted that on that piece there. And it's pretty amazing that you were able to make that happen. Was all the profit just as good as the first one on that one?
Yeah, I mean, I was honestly the first one, this was when the economy was super heating up, during COVID time. So I pre-sold the thing because dude, this was my first deal. This was all of my own money invested into that first deal. And if it didn't work out, I was screwed, man. I was going to be okay. I was going to be in some deep shit.
Yeah. There goes the money.
It was a massive risk for me. And I am a risk taker, but this was the biggest risk that I have taken to date was on that first deal. And so I wanted to make sure I could do whatever I could to try and secure it as much as possible. Yeah. So before I even had permits or broke ground, I pre-sold the thing.
Yeah.
It was pretty great. And I got a non-refundable earnest money on it. So I felt pretty good about it that it was going to come together, but it kind of bit me in a little bit of a way because I had pre-sold it for $450. And this was when the market was really going up. And by the time the the spec was done, it was worth about 150 to 200 more than I had sold it for. So I could have made about $250 to $300,000 on that first deal. But, hindsight is 2020. I still made 100K. I didn't lose any money. So, I mean, that was a win for me. And that's like, okay, time to scale.
Yeah. And you paid for security, right? I think oftentimes you can look back and be like, hey, yeah, if I would have just waited it out or taken on more risk, I could have made 200 or 300K. But also that could easily turn the other way. So I
100%.
think if you can, our good friend Warren Buffett, he always says like, it's just about moving the money, right? Keep making the money, keep moving the money. You don't have to get the fattest profits, but making a good profit, making good decisions with the lowest risk. I mean, that's a great strategy. So it's good that you made that happen. I know, let's pivot away from that deal because I wanted to start with that, but I know you've got a ton of other great things happening in the business side. What has it been like trying to scale the business?
Yeah. So, with those spec homes and stuff that I had been doing, I knew that I was going to be, having a pretty large tax burden. And I was like, okay, what am I going to do with that? What's going to be the next big deal for me? And for me, that was commercial real estate because I really like the scalability of commercial real estate. And that kind of led me into, how do I find commercial real estate deals? And then I, started to come up with like different ways of how I'm finding these commercial real estate deals. And I realized there wasn't like a great system or process for doing that. That's why I created this business Fuel Point, which essentially allows other investors to come in and find great off-market opportunities. But this was like a totally different avenue of, trying to, just do this ground up spec game for me. It was more like, okay, how do I put together a team? How do I build out the systems? How do I build out the processes? And it's been a very unique challenge. And it's been something that has allowed me to, by getting that team to scale, like something that I wouldn't necessarily be able to do on my own, and like outsourcing things to people that are better at certain areas than myself to really grow. And I mean, that's a lot of what you've been doing at Momentasize too, right? Like last time I was in here, you had like one videographer, now you've got like two, and you're just like expanding your team. And so, it's all about like just putting in the team in place and the systems.
Yeah. I think for me, when you're an entrepreneur and you're looking at things like when something is going well or you're seeing some sort of momentum, you have to be analyzing, thinking, and then you have to decide whether or not you want to throw fuel on a fire that you believe can scale properly, right? So that's what you see. That's why you see us now making real strong moves on called the personal branding social media side. I doubled down on that, brought in a really talented guy sitting right here, Riker. I recruited him for a while. He actually, first time around, I tried to recruit him and it didn't work out. And then second time around, I'm like, hey, I got big plans for us. You come over here now. I'm able to invest a little more and you come over, and I finally got him over. So it's the point on that. What I'm trying to say there is, when you're going, if I would circle back to even the social media in general, I remember like no social media, went to an event, somebody's like, Ryan Pineda's like, if you're an entrepreneur and you don't have social media, like, what are you doing? That hit me in the face as like a universal truth. I'm like, yeah, what am I doing? How could I not have it? Start going down the journey of what does it look like? How do you create videos? Like, how does this happen? So I started learning about the scale. And then I had for about a year and 4 months, I was kind of bootstrapping it myself, right? Learning how to make the videos. I remember, so funny, I thought that you used to make a video and like, let's say you wanted to say the hook and then you would pause it. And then you'd say like the next thing. So I'd have like 9 little clips,
clip them all together.
And then I'd send that to the editor, clip together. And he's in India dipping. He sends me back a message. He's like, dude, don't do that.
This is terrible.
He's like, don't do that. He's like, just roll the thing like for the entire thing. Even if you mess up, you have like a 2-minute clip and I'll just edit it out. And he sends me an example of somebody like a bigger person who he edits for. He's like, watch, like it's just a 2-minute video. And then the glass broke for me. I'm like, oh, it was one of those aha moments, right? You feel so silly, but you don't know until you go through it. And then we're bootstrapping it. And I had a tipping point. It was like a year and 4 months into it. And I was like, this doubt came in my mind. I think we had like 5,000, 6,000 followers. And I was like, what am I doing this for? Like, what's the point of this? Where's this headed? And I had to try to make a decision. Either I was going to shut it down or I was actually going to change it up and really invest in it, bring some talented people on, aka Riley, who came on to then help me grow it. And it was a tipping point. There's that insecurity and self-doubt that happens to every entrepreneur before you go for scaling something. You have this idea, you start working on it, you learn these skills, you hit these plateaus, and then you have these insecurities like, am I actually, like, what am I doing this for? Am I actually good at it? Like, I think there's something here, but all this insecurity and fear hits you. And there's a tipping point on what, like, a decision to make. Luckily, I went for it. I said, hey, let's invest in it. Let's go for it. And then you can start to see momentum starting to happen, right? Then once the proof of concept's hitting, then I'm like, okay, let's double down even more. And I think that's one of the key things when you're trying to decide if you're going to scale a business, like, begin with the end in mind, what's in front of you, right? Like, what's the actual overall opportunity at the end of this in 5 years? What's the true opportunity? Can we scale this? Can we actually scale this? And then what is it going to take step by step? And it's definitely not an easy thing to unfold, but if you feel momentum, I definitely say you got to throw fuel on that fire.
Yeah, 100%. And you and I were talking a little bit about this before we hopped on the podcast, but I really have struggled in my life with self-doubt. And I feel like I've always been my world's worst critic, and I've always been the hardest on myself. And I've always just been doubting, hey, can I really do this? When it came to that first spec house, it was am I really going to be able to do this? Am I really going to be able to, put this deal together, bring the builder together and make everything work? Am I going to make a return on this? And there's been so many just points throughout my life that I've just had this self-doubt and this self-doubt talk in the back of my mind. And it's been a challenge. And I would be so much further along if I didn't have so much of that self-doubt. So I'm curious, Dirk, how do you combat that self-doubt and how do you push through that?
It's crazy timing on that question because 2 nights ago, I just had our third baby girl. 2 nights ago, I was laying in bed thinking about everything that we have going on, just thinking about everything. And I had a massive wave of self-doubt where I was like, am I even good at this? What am I even doing? Do I even know what the heck I'm doing? Where is this headed? All this crazy self-doubt came in, and I was just laying there. I couldn't sleep over and over and over and over and over. And the only thing I could do, only way for me to get out of that imposter syndrome, to get out of my head and out of what's going on in my head there, is I have to do something physical first. So what I realized, and now that I reflect, and my wife, she's like, you need to go on a run and work out. Because we just had our baby, I hadn't worked out or ran in 7 days. And so I hadn't had any physical outlet for all the stress, all the pressure. And all the pressure was coming at me in a negative manner. So rather than I like pressure, I usually thrive on pressure, but I need some sort of outlet to deal with it. I need some sort of exertion. Well, because I hadn't been working out, I had no physical release. That pressure was manifesting in a negative manner: fear, doubt, insecurity, right? Rather than pressure of hey, I got to make this happen, belief, optimism, which I live in most of the time. So for me, it's expressing it, being vulnerable enough to tell my wife, I don't know what the heck I'm doing here. And then having a mirror. She's a great mirror for me. She's like, go work out. I've done a couple workouts, and all of a sudden I start to feel like I'm headed back into equilibrium, right? Because we do know imposter syndrome is fine. The fear, insecurities, doubt, it's okay. It's going to happen. It's natural. It's real. The key is to then have tools, like you said, to deal with that and reset yourself. And where focus goes, energy flows. So if you stay stuck in that insecurity, well, then you're going to manifest that insecurity. But if you release that and then focus on what the future is going to look like, learn from the past, don't think too much about the past, learn from it, and then focus on the future, and a lot of great things will come.
Yeah, no, yeah, I love that. And for me, what I think helps me is kind of like you said, I like to have my routine to where I wake up in the morning and I go to the gym, and that's kind of my outlet as well to that physical release. And it's that's where a lot of my best thoughts come from I'll be just in the gym, doing some reps, and I'll just have this thought come to my mind, dude, what if I did this in my business, or what if I changed XYZ? And it's just I don't know, just some of my best thoughts come to me during then.
I couldn't agree more, because you're changing the chemicals in your mind, right? So if you're in this depressive state, get yourself out into some hard exertion, a run, a lift, whatever it is. It's crazy. Last night I was doing a workout. I went from being a morning person to now I'm having to find time at night instead. Again, it just life changes. So,
right.
And I have Aaron, who's a great friend, a great employee. Him and I got into it during the day, and I was lifting, and all of a sudden he came into my mind, and how I really feel about the situation came to me. And I called him, and I was able to be like, hey, you are such a huge part of our team. You're such a big leader in our team. I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful we can have these direct conversations, and it was the lift that released, changed up the chemicals in my mind and released me to be able to get to how I actually feel, not this cranky, tired guy, right?
100%.
So I think if you to deal with those insecurities, if you can go and do a lift, a workout, a swim, whatever it is for you, that alone changes your state. It's not going to fix everything, but that's going to put you in the right state. And then you got to put massive action toward living that growth mindset.
Yeah, 100%.
Let's dive into back to the scaling piece. So the ground up one, I agree. You can scale that pretty quickly because it's not like you're having to, outside of figuring out the capital and then the subcontractors, you're not having to piece together all these operational challenges. Now what I also love about your story on the fuel point side, you did this entrepreneurial journey and you're like, I got a problem. Now I have a big tax. And so you're like, how am I going to solve this problem? That's what entrepreneurs do. I need to buy a commercial building to legally offset this active income that I'm going to have over here. As you were looking for a building, you're like, there's not a good way to find great deals. Going on LoopNet, that's where deals go to
those
die.
are all picked over and
so there's not a great way to actually find good deals. You got a good deal. I know you wrote off a lot of good taxes, but you're like, maybe there's something here from an opportunity side, like any entrepreneur. They had a problem. They realized there was an opportunity in market. And then you created this really cool technology called Fuel Point. Talk to us about from the idea, then all the way through where you are today, because now it's launched and it's doing great revenue. Talk to us about the systems that you put in place. We'll start with the systems, from idea to actualization. What was that like?
Yeah. So from idea is kind of exactly as you described. I had this problem. I knew I needed to offset my income by buying some commercial real estate. Yep. Buying that deal opened my eyes to the world of commercial real estate. And this is the best thing ever. How do I repeat this, right? How do we scale this and find more of these deals and buy more opportunities? And then, I couldn't find more deals. I couldn't find good opportunities. So it's okay, how do I build my own kind of machine internally to do that? And I, essentially started building this tool internally that we were going to use internally to find these deals. And, it's trial and error, hey, does this work? Does this method of outreach work? Does, XYZ work? And after some trial and error, I actually found a system that was working, and I was kind of working out of spreadsheets to start with, right? And spreadsheets are great, but they definitely have limitations, at least for me, to effectively track, outreach and, scaling. Did I talk to this,
Still manual input.
Yeah, exactly. There was still a lot of issues with that. And I needed an all-in-one system that would allow me to scale this method of off-market, commercial real estate. And so I had built this out, and, I'm not a coder. I'm not a programmer or anything. I have a small tech background. I understand kind of how certain things work and whatnot, but not enough to fully build out a full application on my own. So then I was like, okay, I need to leverage, someone else who is, more expertise and more knowledge in this sector than I am. So essentially I, wrote out a scope doc. If you're building, similar, I guess, to in construction, when, you have to have your blueprints for your plan, your business plan of
your specs, what it's going to turn out to be.
Yeah. So with on the side of building software, you have to have something known as a scope doc. And the scope doc essentially outlines who the product is intended for, what are our key functionalities? What is the tech stack going to be? And the tech stack might be the equivalent in construction of okay, we're using lumber on this project, or we're using steel. Yeah. What does that look like? And so that's kind of your tech stack, and just all of these different, parts of it. I had to figure out how to write that out and put that all together. So now
that's the grindy stuff, dude. That's you got this great idea, and that's the homework. Took you back to going to college.
Oh,
man.
dude. Yeah. It's building out that business plan in college, that you got to submit to your professor 100%, dude.
Yeah. But so you wrote a scope, and that's what it takes. anyone can have an idea, but it's putting the action behind writing that out. It's the grindy times. It's like, it's doing when I was writing out the playbooks for our company, I was doing that on vacation, waking up in the morning while the kids were still sleeping and writing out those playbooks. And it was excruciating for somebody that's entrepreneurial. When you dive into that and you try to get stuff that's in your head onto paper, it is difficult. But on the other side of it, is a system.
Yeah. So
it's worth it. So you wrote that out, and then what? Then you went and found some developers?
Yeah. So I think the scope doc is one of those things, and, equivalent like in, doing your, underwriting and stuff on your deals. Yeah. It's just like one of those components. It's harder to like outsource that. Like only you can kind of like have like, what the whole, picture needs to look like, kind of like the architect of the plan.
How long did it take you to write it out?
Man, I don't know. It was probably like, over a course of like a few months, because I kept adapting and changing things before I was finally like, okay, like it's to a point where, it's time to, give this to the builder now, the developer, and have them actually, digest that scope doc and actually put it into, actual code to like actually create like a platform.
See, most people though, like you see how much hard work it takes and how you obsessed about that document, and you knew the idea was good enough that you had the energy to do so. But 2 months of working on a document like that you're trying to get perfected and down, that's a lot of people will just have the idea. Then this is like the classic. They had the idea and then they see the product like, oh, I had that idea.
Yeah.
But dude, you didn't do it, but you had no action. So you grinded through it. It took about 2 months to get that document, and then boom, it goes off to the builders.
Yeah. So it goes off the developer. And the thing with like the scope doc is, you don't want to like just build everything all at once, right? Like as awesome it would be to have every single amazing feature, this thing's going to do everything you'd want it to possibly do at once. Like that's just not feasible. It would take way too long to build. So you have to build what's called like an MVP, right? Like your minimum viable product. And you got to see like, are you going to get market share? Is someone going to want to buy that with like the minimum, components and whatnot?
Yeah. So just the bones, the framework,
the bare bones.
Yeah, you got all these other cool features you're going to build on top of it, but you got to get the bare bones first. And like, are people going to buy it? Because you don't want to go spend, you don't want to triple down, spend all this money.
100%. Okay. So I shipped that off to the developer. I tried.
How'd you find a developer? What was that like?
Yeah. So that was also a very tricky process, because I knew like certain requirements that they needed to have, like certain skill sets that they need to possess. And there's different places that you can go outsource development to. Like I've done other tech related things before. None of them were successful, but I have experience with building
stepping
tech.
Stones, baby.
Yeah, stepping stones, right? Like, you got to have your failures till you eventually find your success. But for me, I knew that if I built this thing, onshore development, like here in the States, it was going to cost me so much money. It just like wouldn't have been feasible. And I have experience with working like with overseas, VAs and stuff. So like I have experience like working with like overseas people. So I've built those processes up. So now for finding a developer, there's different places that you can go, but Upwork is a great resource to find, remote developers. Fiverr's another good one. Upwork's probably a little bit better for it versus Fiverr, because Fiverr's more like very small projects.
And then you shot it out and then you're vetting them. I mean, what's that vetting process like?
Yeah, dude, like when you make a post on Upwork, if anyone's ever made a post on Upwork, you like, if you don't know what you're doing, you're just going to get just slammed, dude, with this guy from India, this guy from Pakistan, this guy from all over the place, dude. And they're like, oh yeah, I can build this like 100%. Like, yeah, I understand everything. I can totally build this. And like, yeah, like
they do not.
Most of those people are full of shit. Like they don't understand it. They can't build it. So you have to put like qualifying questions into your application essentially. So that way they fully understand the application. So like having like a detailed question like, hey, look, like, we need to, have the, program, be able to analyze, a self-storage facility and give cap rates and blah, 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 blah. Like, can you explain to me like how you would build that out like within the application? So something like a very detailed question that only if they read like the requirements would they be able to answer that. And then I also like whatever position that I'm hiring for remotely, I like to have them send in a Loom video of like, who they are, what their background is, what makes them qualified for this position. And also just like a fun fact about like what they enjoy doing. So I can like kind of like understand their personality and who I'm going to be working with. So
you really did a lot of proactive work on making sure that you're asking specific questions, because it's difficult, right? Like you even see that onshore when you do a job posting. If you don't do a unique job posting, if you just do the standard posting, you're going to get so much junk. You got to sift through, like, time is the most valuable resource. You got to sift through all of that stuff to maybe get one or two decent ones. But if you then do it proactively, like we started taking our job postings and being completely different. I just wrote one from my heart, like completely different from, initially what I did is like search superintendent and I would pull one off, and then, that's what I thought would be the answer.
For sure.
But you're going to just get the standard stuff, right? Same issue. Even if you're doing onshore hiring, same issue. So then I wrote one from my heart and did the same thing, where you have little qualifying questions. A simple qualified question is like, hey, send us a 1-minute video about who you are and why you think you'd be a good fit for this job. Whoever doesn't send the video is not going to follow instructions. It's amazing.
I put that in my application. It's amazing how many people don't do that. So it just filters out all those people.
Yeah, you're done. You're done. And then you have like 2 people that send you a video. Like, okay, these people actually read it. So we'll go from there. So you filtered out. You found the right web developer, and you did your MVP. So your minimum viable product. So they came and did your MVP. How long did that take?
So that whole process was probably about another 3 months.
How are you making money in the meantime?
Dude, I'm just like my other, like the FieldPoint was a side hustle for me, right? Like I'm making money doing my specs, so because I've been able to scale that and I've got systems in place that now, like, it's kind of running itself in a sense. And now I can kind of focus on some other projects that I want to work on, which in this case was FieldPoint. And I'm also, still selling homes as a real estate agent. So, I'm hustling, doing these other businesses to support, this other business, FieldPoint. And so that's how I'm making money to finance this. Like, basically, it was around a year of like negative cash flow on this.
You're
business.
You're piling what you're making actively into this software. It takes a year to develop. We get our MVP. I like that MVP. We get our MVP, and then what's the step from there? Because now it's still just you. This is idea to now you got your MVP. It took a year. You're like, thank goodness we have this thing. 100%. We have this thing. I've been piling all my money into it. And what's next?
Yeah. So what's next is, how are we going to market this thing? How are we going to get people that are actually interested in this? Like, how am I going to sell the MVP?
Yeah. And where do you go to answer those questions? Like, I'm just curious to be in your brain on that. Like, how are we going to market it? Where do you go?
Yeah. So for me, it's like trying to figure out like, who's the avatar? Who's someone that's going to sign up for FieldPoint? Like, what does that look like? And in the beginning, it was really the investor, the commercial real estate investor that has a good understanding of real estate and commercial deals, and they simply just need more deal flow. I mean, we've evolved further beyond that to cater to newer investors as well. But in the beginning, it was just like, okay, like boom. This is our avatar.
That's my dream customer.
They just need, off-market deals, and it was like a smaller amount. We just were focusing on people that were in self-storage because we knew that if we can just like dial it in on the self-storage asset class, then we can expand to these other commercial real estate asset classes. So
you knew the technology, focus in on the niche that you believed in, that you already knew these investors are looking for more deals. Focusing on the niche, and now my technology, the framework is there, so it's easy for me to add businesses in there. It's easy for me to add multifamily. Right.
Exactly.
It's just a couple inputs. It's just pulling data, but you focus first on prove this concept out with not with newbies, but with people who have the money to spend because they already own real estate and they want to grow their portfolios.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of like with the spec home, right? Like I started with that one, and it's like if I know like the MVP for me was that first spec house. It's like, okay, if I can prove of concept with the first spec, then I can scale it and expand into like other asset classes and stuff too. So that's like same thing on the software side of things.
Yeah, I know one of the things that happens to us, especially when we're doing new things or, when we're trying to create a new product or do something new, you start to think about every little problem and you start to use all these little problems as like these roadblocks or these like this. And what's crazy about those, you almost have to ignore all those little things because they slow down your momentum. They bring you down. Like, oh, for example, we're creating a community. Like, oh, how are we going to make it work from like the level of school? And if some people have this access and this access, I'm like, okay. I start to think about all those problems and it slows down our momentum. It's like
100%, dude. I'm notoriously bad at that.
It's a crazy thing. So you have to like block and tackle against all those things. And just like you said, get the product up, get the niche going. Cause that's also not just the problems. It's also all the exciting ideas, right? It's also like, hey, we can do this for boring businesses. Hey, we can do this for multifamily.
Yeah.
But you have to narrow down, keep the main thing. It's a saying for a reason, right? And make sure that you can service that first. And once that's successful, then scale it out, right?
Yo, yeah, dude, 100%.
So you got the marketing, you got your avatar, and then at this point, it's still just you and your girl.
Yeah. It's me and my girlfriend, Brooke.
Yeah.
She's really the one that's in the trenches helping me out with this. And then we had one VA who we were essentially using kind of like internally when we were doing like a lot of this just like outreach and stuff ourselves. And then like she knows like her stuff. Like she knows exactly like our systems and our process and all of that. And it's like, okay, we're going to be bringing on clients that we're going to be able to need to repeat this process. So
she's already doing your stuff for you on your commercial deals.
Exactly.
And so you said, hey, I can repeat this. Like I can repeat this with the VA in a low cost manner. So I'm just going to take this. I figured out all these processes with her through School of Hard Knocks. Yeah. And now I'm going to help my clients do the same thing.
Yeah, exactly. So she gets promoted to our training director. Nice. And so now she knows everything that she essentially needs to know about, the whole, direct to market, seller outreach and all that, and how to use this software system that we've created to, piece it all together. Mm-hmm. And so she gets promoted to training director, and then we come up with this extremely robust system. Well, it wasn't robust to start with, right? Like it comes back to like, I do almost all of my hirings all remote. And I think you probably do like a hybrid of that. So I'm real curious to see or to hear a little bit more about how you do in-person stuff. But like almost all of my stuff is remote. Like almost my entire team is remote. So it probably looks a little bit different than how you do your hiring. But originally, we kind of got lucky with like some of our first ones that we had brought on. And then we're bringing on these VAs and, they're just not performing at the level that I need them to. Like I have a very high standard of what they need to perform at, and they just weren't performing, or they would, show up for a week and then they disappear, or they'd be like working multiple jobs. Like with remote workers, right? It's like hard to know, like, is someone like actually fully involved in doing what you need them to do, like in your business? Like, dude, we would hire some people that we would find out that they were working like 2 or 3 other jobs at the same time. And then like, we wouldn't find out till like, a couple weeks into it, because like, dude, why is your output so garbage compared to these other people? Like, what is going on here? And then they're giving all these excuses of why their output is garbage and all this stuff.
I'm curious, how do you deal with somebody that's not performing at the standard you have? I love that you have a high standard. How do you deal with that specifically?
Yeah. So
you got rules of thumb, or what do you got going on?
Yeah. So what we implemented, and I'm sure it would be like different for like every position, but we basically graduated the term of VA for Fuel Point into what's known as a lead manager, because we put them through such an extensive training program that they're like experts on commercial real estate by the time they graduate our program. And like, we maybe have like a 10% acceptance rate of people that go through this program.
Don't make it. And
the rest of them, we just get rid of. Yeah. And once they are in the program and they're like actually like, involved with us at Fuel Point, and we can like place them with like clients to like assist like within the outreach, is they get audited by the training director, and then my operations manager, and then Brooke, who's the COO in the company. And then I'll also oversee it too. And I came up with something called an audit. Yeah. So it's this pretty lengthy spreadsheet, which has these key metrics on it. And on each, there's a column with a metric that they like are getting graded on essentially. So like one of them might be skip tracing. One of them might be like the quality of their calls. The other might be like data entry. Obviously you could apply this to like other positions, like within a company, like what are the key metrics for that individual person. Yep. And then there's a drop down on this spreadsheet from a scale of like 1 to 10 on how they are performing in that specific metric. Yep. And then we go through every single week and we grade them on these metrics from 1 to 10. And, if it's anything below, it's like color coded too, right? So like 1 to 5 is like red, like it'll show up as red in the spreadsheet. And between,
nice.
Yeah, dude, it's beautiful spreadsheet. I'll have to show it to you. And then from like 6 to like 7, it's like yellow. And then 7 to 9, it's like blue. And then 10 is like a green, like you nailed it. And like, I've really instructed the other people that are working on this audit to like it's not an easy thing to like get good scores, like a perfect score. I like who knows this system extremely well, most likely wouldn't get a perfect score on this every time. Like it's very hard to get a perfect score because I want this to be like something that is not, it's not like it's not a participation trophy, man. We're not doing that.
There's no participation medals here.
Exactly.
You're running competition.
So like there's all these, columns and categories and stuff that they get graded on. And then at the end of that, there's like a total score and it tallies up. And if they get above a like 20 points on that, we issue what's called a rocket reward. So we're trying not to necessarily punish for like, bad output.
Yeah, coach. You're trying to coach
exactly. We're trying to like provide positive encouragement and things that can be done to like encourage them to perform better. And if they get that good score, we give them what's known as a rocket record, which essentially goes into their employment record card. And it's like a bank that they can use to redeem on a paycheck. And if they get enough of these rocket rewards in their bank, then we give them bonuses on their paycheck. And this allows us to have higher performing employees. They're like stoked about it because when we issue the rocket awards, we make it known publicly for everyone that's in our like Slack channel essentially. And we like make it a big deal. Like Stephanie knocked it out of the park this week. She got a rocket reward. Yeah. She's crushing it. And then she gets, recognition among her peers. And I think that's really important, especially like with like a remote like workforce. You want to have like a good culture, right? Because everyone's like all over the place. You want everyone to be like just all involved and stuff. So
show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. The legend, Charlie Munger. So that document, which you're describing, one thing at least how I'm visualizing, which is great for you too, is you have somebody who's your audit manager, they're auditing the VA, and then because it's color coded now, you can also just see patterns. So rather 100%. Than have to like look at each thing, the color coding, you can see like, oh, the wave of red. Okay, we got to really work on this. Yeah. Or like, hey, this is nice. Like they're yellowy and a tiny bit of green. Like they're a high performer. 100%. What are they doing, right? And then so I like that visual so that you can quickly, because you got a lot going on, you could quickly look at them. Boom, like. If there's red, that's a problem. Yeah. If there's yellow, green, let's repeat. So I really like adding that color coding to the numbers.
Oh yeah,
because now you see.
Yeah, it allows you to observe your data
and in a pattern, in a nice color pattern.
And then I can look through it and be like, okay, like, dude, what is Stephanie doing? Yeah. She's got greens the last 6 weeks and, she's crushing it more than anyone else. Like, how can we take what she's doing and adjust our SOPs to modify that to make our other employees, have a higher output?
I had a really cool conversation yesterday with a guy who worked for Grant Cardone. He was Grant Cardone's top. He raised the most amount of money for Grant Cardone when they launched Cardone Capital. And he was young, ambitious, just really cool guy. His name's Gabe Bowling like a strike. And he told me that one thing that happened, he was like crushing it, hitting the phones, crushing it, but he was super hungry to learn so much. And he wanted to really understand the technical pieces. So he would go into accounting and like line item by line item, understand everything that's in the P&L and really wanted to deeply understand. Well, the more he learned, he started speaking too technical to these investors. He was getting too technical with them. And so all of a sudden he had these great numbers and he started seeing his numbers go down because they were tracking the metrics and having the coaching calls. They're like, he said he was on a call, I think it was with Grant or whoever was helping him. He's like, why are your numbers going down? He's like, I don't know. Like, I'm learning more. Yeah. I'm growing more. I'm getting smarter.
Dude.
And then they listened to the calls and whoever, maybe it was Grant or whoever else was like, dude, I know this stuff. And like, you're too I'm getting bored. Bro. Like you're too technical. You're losing me. Not
this
bored.
This is resonating so much with me.
You're losing me, And then he's like, he reflected on that. He's like, oh shoot. And then he changed it. He simplified it again and boom, the numbers went back up.
Dude, like you saying that like is just like music to my ears because I am that guy you're talking about, dude. Like I have like learned every detailed analytic because I'm such an analytical guy and like I'm so like into like the very nitty-gritty details when I try and explain like on calls that I'm trying to like pitch someone fuel point, right? Like I'm showing them like, hey, here's how you can do X, Y, Z. And like I get very specific into it. And dude, I'm losing these people, man. They're like, what did you just say?
Exactly.
And that's
too
why
technical.
Like, it's way too technical. Yeah. So I took a step back from sales and, I've brought in, a sales team and these guys, like they understand it, at a point, to where like they don't have to know every single nitty gritty detail, but they understand what the outcome of the platform is, and they're able to explain that in a way to people where it just clicks, dude, and they sell it way better than I do.
Yeah, of course, because if you get too technical, it's a natural thing, right? Like we think the more technical we get, the more it'll help them understand. But if you get too technical and you don't understand what's going on anymore, like I remember when I was getting into the construction world in general, all the construction lingo, like all of a sudden I'm like, what is this? Yeah. Like, what is going on here, right? And all like that specific, even the specific technical lingo is my point. Not just the details, the lingo. If you don't simplify it, you can lose people because if they don't understand, they're not going to buy.
100%, dude.
Right?
Yeah. You got to like cater to your audience, right? Yeah. And like your audience, like most of them like don't like need to know like the very, very specific nitty gritty details. Like you're just going to lose them on it. Yeah. So I really like that.
Dude. So, okay. Back to the systems. Cause I love this. So we've got these VAs to even qualify. They go through the Fuel Point University. Only the best performing 10% make it then. And then it doesn't stop there. Now they've made it. Now we've got these VAs who they go through all their training to make it. They have to actually really perform at a high level. They go through Fuel Point University, which is cool that you even built that out. Then after that, now they have a continuous weekly audit sheet, a coaching sheet to see how they're doing. They're incentivized they get the rocket fuel. Is that what we call it?
Rocket rewards.
They get a rocket reward that's tied to, let's say I get 10 rocket rewards. Boom, I get a bump in my paycheck. I love it. I love it as a game. And then if there's other patterns, you're like, I'm not going to ding you at all, but I'm going to coach you for things that aren't going well. And that's the system essentially that you've created now for the VAs, which is insane because with that system, now you can just, the more clients you have, you're never going to have a problem with quality because the more clients you have, they go through VAs, go through university, 100%. They go into the audit system and boom, you're good to go. Versus like if it's just in your head or a lot of entrepreneurs. I mean, I think most entrepreneurs never go from being self-employed business to a real business. I'm struggling with that right now because they don't want to get out of their own way or they can't. It's so hard to build a system. Like it's really difficult. It's really impressive that you've been able to put on the creative part, use the creative part of your brain and the operational part. You've got a real nice bridge there because that's really difficult for a lot of entrepreneurs to do, to get what's in their head out into a system that's practical and functioning.
Yeah, 100%. Like it's really interesting the way my brain works because like I almost feel like I'm the architect and I'm also like the integrator at the same time. And like, sometimes I'll spend too much time in any one area and it will negatively impact me. But so going back to how I like get people into like the Fuel Point University that you call it, like I feel like your listeners out there, like this was the beginning part of like the funnel for like bringing in these like employees into the company was like a game changer of essentially bringing in good qualified
talented
people.
Yeah.
And I mean, do you want to get the nitty gritty specifics on how we did
this?
Let's
do it.
Drop some nuggets, man. Yeah. So like I said, man, we were having, these VAs and stuff that work in multiple jobs. Yeah. They weren't performing well. It was just not great. Yeah. And like, dude, like it was just driving me nuts. And I like had to kind of pause the, part of this program while I figured out, how to fix this system.
Yeah, the do for you part of the program.
Yeah.
You paused the technology was still great, but the do for you, like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. For someone that wanted like everything just completely done for them, like I had to pause that and rethink, how we're going to bring in these like VAs into the system.
I liked it, by the way, real quick. I compliment you for not just pausing. Sometimes if I don't like something, I'm like, no, that's gone. Like, I can't. So it's cool. You pause it and rethought it, which I'm going to take a good advice on that. Next time I hit a roadblock, I'm not just going to cancel. I'm not just going to cancel.
It can be tempting. Trust me. I was like, oh my God, how do we get rid of this component of business?
So when I was having my insecure doubts 2 nights ago, I was like, man, maybe it's just all done. Like delete this, gone with this. Bye-bye.
Yeah.
And it was this problem. So you paused it, you rethought it. And that's how, let's get into the technical. I'm digging for gold here, man. Give me the gold.
Yeah. So I actually had to like make an entire course like on how we are doing every aspect of it, explaining every part of the asset class that we're working at the time. It was self-storage.
Would you do that through Loom?
I would just like create, record content, kind of like your setup here. I use a recording tool called OBS. I don't know if you guys know
we use OBS.
Dude. So I would use OBS to record myself so I could
go on the screen, on the screen and record.
Yeah, we could dive all into OBS and how amazing it is, but that's another topic.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I would record myself and I would start like putting this into a course of like different topics and start categorizing it. And like the first part of it was like how to be, essentially like a good employee, like expectations, like code of
culture,
conduct,
expectations,
culture, all those things, what we are, what we do, what's expected out of you, blah, 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 blah. And then the next part of that was like, okay, here's like your task, what your day-to-day looks like. Here's like explaining like technical concepts, like of what commercial real estate is, what self-storage is, what a unit mix is, what, an occupancy rate is, all these different technical aspects of understanding the actual asset. So that way, when they're having conversations with sellers, they don't sound dumb. Because when a seller asks them like, oh, okay, like, what do you know about like DSCR? Like, what do you know about like a unit mix or stuff like that? They can actually have high level conversations.
They have to pass the test.
Exactly. They got to pass the shit test, dude, because a lot of these sellers, man, like they're older, they're not messing around, like especially like with people like cold calling them and stuff. Like they want to have intelligent conversations.
Yeah, exactly. They don't want you to just they're getting hit left and right. And it's frustrating to get a cold call in general.
100%.
So you gotta be
so if you can have an intelligent phone call and understand how to build rapport with these sellers and other aspects that's going to make you effective at your job, is just going to make the whole process that much better. So we have this super lengthy course that we put them through on like all sorts of like very specific details on the systems, on the assets, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what we found is that we were bringing on people and we were paying them and wasting all this money on like training and all these other things. So
you were bringing them on, send them to training, and they didn't pass the test.
Exactly. So
they were the 90%.
So I needed a system to weed people out without losing all this money on training some of the other stuff. So what now the process is they have to enter the program, and an unpaid internship is what we call it. It's not free. We're not making people work for free, but the people that pass the program, they get a large signing bonus that makes it worth it, right? So a very large signing bonus. And these people that don't make it, like they are like very well, like they understand what they're getting into. Look, if you don't make it, you won't be paid for your time. But trust me, if you make it, you will be rewarded very well for making it into our program. So by doing that, we weed out the people that don't make it through that course, and that saved us just a ton there. But we needed to take it a step further, right? So now we weed them out through this lengthy course, and after that, we do like this live training period, right? So
did they have their bonus yet?
So they've got like their first series of their bonus, and now like to essentially like get placed and actually work with clients, they have to pass the live training portion of it. So our training director now works like we batch this, right? Like I think it's important for us to batch it. And so we host essentially like monthly, essentially like training weeks where we bring in all the candidates from that have made it through the course that are now going to go into like our live like training week. And so they go through that process and they apply everything that they've learned in the course. And if they're not able to apply the things they've learned in the course, we start weeding them out throughout the week.
Because you might be good at studying and answering the question, but now we got to see it live.
We got to hear how well you can speak with sellers, and they're actually doing live calls.
Now we're testing if you actually understand. Exactly. Not that you can regurgitate it on it.
So we make these individuals work live calls and actually have real conversations with sellers. And if they can't hold a conversation with the seller, if they can't, understand, what they're talking about and, handle objections, we do a lot of objection handling. And if they can't make it through that process throughout the week, like we just get rid of them. So it's just like this whole
and it's
funnel,
already known. It's already known. You don't even have to.
This whole funnel just weeds people out like along the way. And at the end of it, we've got like 10% of people that have made it through, but they're rock stars, dude. Like they are just like top notch. They've gone through like all of our training programs, and like now we know that they're going to crush it. But like bringing it back to what I said earlier, we want to make sure these people stay top of their game, right? So that's why we do these audits to make sure that they're performing well. And when someone first starts out, kind of like you were saying with the color coding, like they might have, maybe some yellows and blues and stuff in there. But like the further, like if we look at where they're at week 1 to like week 6, like dude, there's like blues and greens. Like the yellows and reds just like start to disappear.
Go away. Yeah. I mean, I love it. So the question I started with is, how do you uphold the standard? And it's by having a massively high standard. Because you had the pain, you were getting frustrated. You're like, I'm going to now figure out, you have a massively high standard to even just get people in and through. And what's cool about the way the standard is, it's not just like this railing of questions, blah, 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 blah. It's actually really cool because it's it's true education that has a reward at the end of it, right? So it's really smart. It's true education. And then it's not just, can you regurgitate the information? Now you test them out. Do you understand the information? And then if you understand the information, boom, now you're in the top 10% and we can really use you. So you proactively set the standard by the process that they have to go through. That is a gold nugget, dude.
It's been a game changer.
Yeah.
With remote employees, dude, it's been a game changer.
I started to think to myself, I'm like, I got a lot of work to do. What's good though, that's what I love about these types of things is you can learn so many different things by talking through other people's businesses and the problems they're having and then how they solved them. And then what then happens is you have this light bulb idea where, hey, I can apply it in this business. It's not going to be the exact same, but in our own style, in our own way. And there's so much value out of that. So we did hit the goal on that one, man. I love it. Yeah, dude. So that's how we set the standard from the VA side of it. Talk to us then about the rest of the business, because now we understand the operational piece. I think we have a good understanding of that. What about the sales? What systems have you put in place to get the sales, the marketing, et cetera, done? Because I think initially you were selling it with Brooke, right?
Yeah. It was in the beginning, it was like me and Brooke that were selling that.
What did the first sale feel like?
Dude, it was like surreal.
Yeah. You're like,
yeah, because Fuel Point delivers high value, which in turn it's a high ticket, product.
I know it's hard. Yeah.
And for people that see the value in it, they're going to see 10, 100x return on their money. But to be able to have a conversation with someone and explain to them what the product is, and for them to get it, and then for them to hand you their credit card and be like, okay, dude, this is amazing. Like I want this program. Like this is awesome. And the first time that, I sold it, this was like with the MVP version, like it's very basic infancy, and I sold it and I was just like, I ran into the other room and I'm like, Brooke, like, holy shit, like this is a real business. Like this is like, we got to scale this thing. Like, this is amazing. Like, dude, it's like, it's hard to describe the feeling, but like, cause I had made money and, I've made lots of money in real estate, lots of money being a realtor and the spec stuff. But like, this was just like, kind of like a passion project and something that I've always wanted to have a type of business like this. And from being able to take it from, something that I actually needed personally for scaling my real estate business to actually like creating like a whole separate business from this. It was really great to see that come together. Yeah.
Going back to the doubt, did you ever along the way think about shutting it down?
So many self-doubts, dude. Like Brooke, I had just told her so many times, I was like, man, I don't know about this. Like, I don't know about this. Like I'm doubting it. And yeah, dude, like I still struggle. Like just how you were saying a couple nights ago, dude, like I still even though like I'm seeing success in these other areas, like I still I have a lot of this self-doubt. And we were talking a little bit before we got here, but like for me, sometimes I just need to not be so caught up with the self-doubt. And I almost need to take a little bit of a step back and like, okay, what have I accomplished? Like, what does it look like? My track record? Have I had some accomplishment in the past? And like, just kind of give myself a little bit of a pat on the back. Like, look, like you've actually been able to find some success here previously. Like, don't doubt that you won't be able to find it again. And you won't be able to, amplify the success that you've already given. And I just feel like it's hard, right? To be able to do that. But it has helped me at times.
And having a good person, like for you, it's Burke. For me, it's my wife, Shay, to help balance out those times when you have that doubt, that insecurity. That's the difference maker, I would say, for me through and through, right? Because they can balance you out. They can keep you on track, keep you going. 100%. You know, it's crazy.
Give them an idea. There's like, that's a terrible idea. Don't do that.
Yeah. And what's crazy about doubt, and I just had an example of this happen to us, and it's a wild example. On the other side of that moment when you feel so much doubt, if you don't quit, that's the exponential moment of success. I'll give you a story that just happened to us a week ago because my baby girl was born. And I forgot, we did a home birth. I forgot what happens right before the baby is born. And so we're going through this whole journey, and it's an intense journey. My wife was up at 2:30 in the morning, started the contractions. We didn't have the baby till 10:23. So it's a long day of laboring. And along the way, she's having all those doubts as well, right? Different doubts that manifest. And we go through the transition period is what they call it. Ton of pain, crazy situation, especially home birth, like just a wild experience to be watching somebody you love more than anyone in the world go through that. And what happens right before the baby comes, there's a huge amount of doubt that overcomes. And my wife had it. There's a calm before the storm. So you go through this transition, which is like crazy intense. And then there's this moment of where things are calm and things calm down for her. And then all of a sudden she looked at me, looked at everyone, and she started saying, like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I can't have the baby. I can't do this. And the midwives and her mom would be like, yeah, you can. And she's like, I can't do it. I'm not going to do it. I don't want to do it. I can't do it. And all the doubts that came into her mind, and I forgot about it. So I kind of fell for it. And so I looked at my midwife and I was like, she's saying she can't do it. I'm like, what are we going to do? This is with my eyes, not my mouth, you know? Yeah. And she looked at me and she smiled and I'm like, what? And what I forgot is at that next moment, so my wife literally thought, the midwife's like, okay, well then what do you want to do? The next contraction comes, the water breaks, and within 5 minutes we had the baby. But before healthy, happy, which is great, before the biggest gift of your life, you're going to have major doubts. It's sticking with it and not giving up on yourself, and the outcome will be beyond your wildest dreams, like having a brand new girl, right? So I think that it's just, that is an example of what a wild example in the most primal way of the fact that, of course, we're going to doubt ourselves when we're trying to do really, really difficult things. But on the other side of that doubt is this amazing outcome beyond what we could ever even imagine, right? And so it's cool that you stuck through those doubts, and those doubts will continue to come, which it's wild. You listen to the most successful people in the world, you'd think maybe they're perfect people. They have the same thing, the same patterns happen. We're humans in that manner, right? So it's not about whether or not the doubts are going to come. It's just how are we going to deal with them? And then do we fight through them, or do we numb them? I think that's what you have to be. If you're aware of them and vulnerable enough to say, I'm having them, that's the key, because once you bring awareness to it, you can solve it. It's when you numb them, that's when you have a problem. When you go to like alcohol for it, or, you ignore them, that's where you start to create this actually big issue that then creates an average life. So
yeah, 100%, man.
Going back to the goal, we went deep there. Going back to the gold digging, because we got the gold digging on the operational side. Now let's talk about the sales and marketing piece. You guys were doing it yourself. It was really, you said it was obviously this pivotal moment. You ran into the room and told Brooke, like, we got a real business here. What's it been like? What operational systems do you put in place to sell, to bring leads to sell? Let's start with maybe the marketing side first and then the sales side.
Yeah. So for us, this comes back to like, how do we, we have our scope doc, which kind of like outlined what the product is and kind of like our general avatar of who we're going to sell this thing to. And so knowing who our avatar was a self-storage investor.
Clarity first.
Clarity, exactly. So knowing that, our avatar is a self-storage investor, maybe they have 1 or 2 deals, or maybe they know enough about storage and all they need now is the deal. And just knowing what that avatar looks like is like, where does that avatar live? Like, how can we, just reach out to these people and find them? And for me, it was just like, maybe they're just on LinkedIn. Why don't I just like go to LinkedIn and just like search for self-storage investors?
You were brainstorming. You said, let's start with LinkedIn.
Yeah. Cause I, I've got I built out a pretty large following on my Instagram, but like originally when I built that out, kind of like, we had talked in the past, is like, I scaled that thing super hard, super fast with like no end in mind. Like I had no idea what I was going to do with it. Yeah, exactly. So I just like blew it up, and then I was like, oh, what am I going to do with this? And then I just burned out on it. So I was like, I could go like work on like doing content for this and just like throw it out, which eventually I'm going to work back to like building up the organic content for this. But I didn't want it to be like such a wide net. I wanted like, this is the MVP, right? So I wanted to like very specifically find out like who's, if this avatar is going to pay for this product. And so for me, it was like, these are professional individuals, professional investors. So why don't I just go out to LinkedIn, start reaching out to these individuals? And I would legitimately just go into LinkedIn and search for self-storage investors, and I would look at their profiles, and then I would just like read up about them, like who they are. And I would just like message them and like start building rapport with them, finding out, where they're at in their, self-storage investment journey, and just like, just kind of sharing some stuff back and forth, and eventually just asking them, hey, do you have enough deal flow in your business? Are you able to like effectively find enough off-market storage deals in your business? Or, would you be interested in scaling, or what does that look like? Or where are you finding your deals now? And, that striked up the conversation of like, okay, like, hey, we're actually struggling finding deals. Right now we're traditionally just working with brokers, or we're just going on to like LoopNet or Crexy, and, those deals suck. And we just don't have, a great system for finding these off-market opportunities. And then, so I was like, dude, like, I think I could help you out. Like, do you have any time, like available on like Tuesday at 10:15, and we could chat about how potentially I could help you get more of these off-market opportunities. And so I just like kept doing that. Like, I don't know, I think we did probably 10 or 15 calls. And, when you do your first one, it's going to be super rough.
Yeah,
right? Like,
of course.
You're trying to pitch this thing. And it's just like like
you're
what
nervous
angle,
as heck.
you're like, yeah, exactly.
The call's coming up. You're looking at the time each time. You're like, okay, here we go. All right, we got to do it.
Yeah, 100%. So so it's just like working through that. And then, I think it was like, I don't know the exact number. It was probably like close to like 12 or 15th. Like I found someone that was like, the pitch was good, and it just resonated with exactly what they needed. They were an investor, and
you said 12 or 15th person you did, like you.
I did like 12 to 15 calls of like
until you hit somebody.
Until like finally like I like had enough of like understanding of like how to like present this to people to where it made sense, and they totally saw the value in it. For like, dude, like, let's go. Let's do this.
Yeah, let's give it a go.
Exactly. 100%.
I think that's another crazy one, because each one of those calls can create a lot of doubt as well, right?
Yeah.
You're your 12th one in, 15th one in, you're like, so it's just barricading through those and just making sure, just knowing that on the other side of that, those are just stepping stones, you're going to get a little bit better, and boom.
Yeah.
So you had your 12th one, you were going through LinkedIn. So it was like, it was the true way of really, I mean, what would be...
It's direct personalized outreach.
Yeah, direct personalized outreach is how you first started it. And then what is it? How have you scaled it?
Yeah.
That's the MVP sign up. Now we got a real, Fuel Point's doing really, really good, and it's going to do even better. But how did you scale it? Because that's not scalable, right? What you did there.
Yeah.
How did you scale it?
Yeah, 100%. So how we scaled this is we started looking at, like, okay, like what is the easiest way to scale this thing without like spending so much time to where we can So for me, it was like, let's try Facebook ads and see how that performs. And so I think that I came up with like 20 to 50 variations of like different types of ads. And, I had to learn about I had to learn about paid ads and media buying and all that stuff, because dude, it was like, I didn't know anything about media buying. I didn't know, how to effectively create copy and, stuff that was going to perform well on these Facebook ads. So just like trial and error of like, is this creative going to do better than that? And seeing, my cost per lead, like, and the rankings and all that stuff. And finally, like I had some ads that just like took off. Like
so you sprayed out 10 to 20 of them, or 15 to 20 of them.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I just like would turn off the ones that were performing like garbage. And I was like, okay, like no one's interested in that ad. And then the one that performed really well, I just like doubled down and increased the ad spend on that. Cause like originally it was
how much variation do you have in those ads? Like talk me through how much variation, what type of testing are you doing there? I mean, you got 15 to 20 different ones running out there. Are they slightly different, very different? Are they pictures, videos?
Yeah, it was like in groups. So some of them, it might be a group of like, okay, like let's just change the hook and see like how that performs, or let's just do.
So you just changed the hook.
Yeah. Well, like some of them was like simply just changing the hook, and then the other ones were like just like, doing a different message inside of the ad, like doing a different like script of like what I'm going to say to the audience inside of that. And then just like seeing how that performs versus the other ones. And then it was like, okay, reel versus like just a photo, or reel versus carousel, and just looking at which ones are performing the best. And like there was just like one or two that just like really just struck gold, and we're actually still running one of those ads now because it's just resonated so well. I mean, there's like, it was on the MVP. So some of the stuff that I'm showing in this ad is like still our MVP, and this product has evolved so much since then. And it's like 10 times better than our original MVP, but that's still what I'm showing in the ad because it's performing so well, and it just resonates so well with the audience. And it's just like getting us, a lot of, traction from just one of those ads.
Yeah. It's cool. It made me think about like the power of testing that out. I know like the Hermosis, who you've probably learned a lot from, even just digesting their stuff.
100%.
I know that one thing they specialized in as well was filling up those gyms. And so he probably did very similar to what you did, a bunch of ideation on those ads. What he was so good at is he probably did the exact same thing where he had like 15, 20 ads that he tested.
Yeah. Where do you think I got the idea from? Dude?
There you go.
100%.
There you go. For his own gym, right? So he tested him for his own gym, and then he got one that was gangbuster, turned all the other ones off. And then he
cranked the ad spend on that one.
Yeah. And took that and repeated it for all the gyms because he already knew it was going to work. And 100%. So it's like, but see, that's what's so cool about entrepreneurship as well. Like you don't have to, you're like, dang, I got to learn this ad thing. So you find the best person and you go and learn it from them, right?
You don't have to reinvent the wheel.
No. It's really, really cool that I love that. So you went to scale it. You went from LinkedIn direct personal outreach, trying to build rapport, to, hey, now let's try these Facebook ads. 20 of them you shot out. A couple of them convert really well, one specifically, and that's now creating all your leads from a scalable side, or what?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of our sources, right? Like, on LinkedIn, you can only send out so many like messages a day. Yeah. So I was
do you still do that, or?
Yeah, I still do that today.
You're still hustling.
I use my VA to help me in some of that outreach because I don't have time all day to find all these investors and stuff. So like I've kind of systemized that approach to like how it can still be like personalized with the help of the VA.
How'd you do that?
Just basically just like recording my process of like how I'm having these conversations with these individuals, and she learns and knows exactly how I would speak to people. So that way we can, strike up those conversations and get people interested in booking a demo.
And then if she hits a roadblock, at least you've gotten them all the way in your voice.
Exactly.
Through the roadblock.
Yeah. If there's like a really like, a detailed question that she might not know, then like I can chime in, take over that conversation and, provide, some insight onto that. But you can only send so many messages a day on LinkedIn. And Brooke, she didn't have a LinkedIn. And I was like, Brooke, you're gonna have to fire up your LinkedIn. We're gonna have to create you a profile.
Yeah, you gotta
so we can use your profile.
Yeah.
So like I modeled her profile, like exactly what it would need to look like to like, essentially like look like a professional who like understands like, the commercial real estate space. And dude, she's learned so much about it. She does understand it now, but in the beginning, she didn't know like anything about it. And so now like we do outreach on her profile, we do outreach on my profile, and we're doing the Facebook ads, and we're also doing these lead magnets. And
you mean so we do the Facebook ads, we do the direct outreach. By the way, if anyone's wondering, like what I see, the best way to get something out of your head, the way you do it, from what I can understand, is if you want to not be doing this task anymore, because the only way to scale something is for you not to be doing it, because you can only be one place at a time. You rip the Band-Aid off, you spend time recording yourself doing the tasks, having the processes in place, and then you delegate it off. Yeah. Right. 100%. I mean, and that's the key. Yeah. And then that's how you've allowed yourself to then scale out. So you did that in operations. You did it for marketing, sales, for outreach. You've done a really good job of recording yourself doing the thing so that somebody can see how you want 100%. It done. Right? See how you want it done, how you think about it, your process, your voice, and then you hand it off in a way that allows them to execute on it. So that's just a really great way to get what's out of your head into paper. You don't even have to write it anymore. You can record it. So
dude, it's a game changer, recording yourself doing the tasks.
So I also like that you did another profile for Brooks. You got double outreach, really clever.
Yeah.
So you've got that direct outreach that now has been more scalable. You still jump in there when you need to, but it's more scalable. So that system scaled really smart.
Yeah, that's mostly hands off.
Yeah. We talked about the Facebook ads. We ran 20 of them. We got the 1-2 that performed great. That's on. Ad spend's happening there. What are these lead magnets?
Yeah. So originally we were running like lead magnet ads, and like what's
a lead magnet?
A lead magnet is essentially something that you can give to someone that has some value. In exchange, typically they'll give you like their contact information, and there's all sorts of different types of lead magnets. But I feel like I created like the best.
Oh, come on. What is it?
So like a lot of these like lead magnets are like, PDFs or courses or things like that. And so I was like, what sort of value can I provide people in my avatar and my niche that they would want to use all the time, and like they would gladly give me their information. Like I can't remember who it is that says who. Like there's probably a few different people that say it, but like give something away that's like someone would pay something for, but give it away for free.
Yeah, there you go.
And so I created this. It's a seller finance calculator, and I coded it myself. I had to like figure out like how to like tie all these things together and like code this like seller finance calculator. And
seller finance, meaning it's valuable because we're looking for off-market
Yeah, these are commercial real estate investors, and like the interest rates are crazy high right now. So everyone's trying to do creative deals, right?
Yeah.
And I had to actually originally built the seller finance calculator for like my community inside of FuelPoint and for my own use case. Because dude, I was Googling seller finance calculators
too many times.
There was crap out there. No, it was like garbage ones where like they didn't work great or they didn't give you the information that I needed because I needed to be able to see a breakdown of like the total interest that the seller is essentially going to make on the deal and have it broken down in a way that makes sense to the seller of why they would want to accept a seller finance deal.
Simple.
So I built this calculator out that essentially you can, put in your inputs, of how you're going to structure this deal. And then you can download an amortization table so the seller can see like all their payments that they're going to be getting. They can see how much profit they're going to make every single month just on the interest alone and the principal. And then they can see like the total like profit that they'll make interest on the deal. So it's all broken down, this beautiful PDF that they can download to see it. And then it's got like you can put like balloons in there, maturity dates, so like how much chunk of change they're going to be in the end of it. And then I extended upon it and be like, okay, like a lot of these sellers are going to worry about like tax implications and all these other things. So like, how can I like implement some like tax, things in there to like make it look like so they could see their estimated tax scenarios and why they should accept lower down payments. And basically this beautiful and very well functional seller finance calculator that has a tremendous value to people that are working creative deals in seller finance.
Yeah, because now they have not only a calculate, they can't only just calculate it, they can deliver it in a nice, beautiful form.
Oh yeah, exactly.
That's a massive
to truly help
value.
them when they're negotiating deals with sellers.
Yeah,
100%.
Exactly. That is a massive value.
Yeah, so it's this app, and it works on your phone, it works on your computer, and then at the top of this app, it's got a little ad, FuelPoint, that says, hey, do you need help finding off-market deals? Like, we can help you out. And then, check out FuelPoint. So every time, not only do they give me their contact information for this lead magnet, but every time they use it, it's got like my little ad for FuelPoint right there that, they're just going to keep seeing it. And the tool is so valuable, they're going to keep using it. So even if they don't want to sign up for FuelPoint today, they've getting enough value out of this thing. They're going to keep seeing that. Like, okay, what's this FuelPoint thing about? I got to check this out.
Because if they're real deal makers, they're also Googling for the seller finance thing, and it's annoying. So now they're going to use it. So the people who are actively using it, who are your dream customers,
100%,
they're eventually going to be like, I'm out of deals now.
Yeah, dude, like I'm able to like give this lead magnet away. Like I'll like post it in like Facebook groups. I'll post it on LinkedIn. I'll post it on like social media. Dude, I like get flooded with requests for it. Like, dude, like I've closed deals just off of this lead magnet. Like I've made thousands of dollars just off of this lead magnet alone because it is so powerful and so useful to the people that want it.
That is what we call a real lead magnet. And you were not lying when you said you think you created the best one there, because that is a baller lead magnet. Okay, so, and that's your main lead magnet?
It's one of them. Yeah, we have other ones, but that's like the primary one that we're pushing right now. We have another one, which is an offer calculator that basically you select the asset class that you're working. And then as long as you can get like the gross monthly revenue or the yearly revenue from the individual or from the seller that you're speaking to, and then
It'll spit out an
Yeah,
offer for
it
you.
takes the expense ratio that's like an average for that asset class. Like in self-storage, like probably the average expense ratio is between like 35 to 40%.
Yeah.
So it'll take that expense ratio and then you just put in a few inputs there, and then it'll spit out like from a 4 cap to a 12 cap of these different numbers that you can offer to the seller.
Yep.
So when you're talking to the seller right away and the seller's like, oh, what are you going to offer me for this property? You can just quickly give them like a range, like, hey, look, here's what I can give you between like a 6 to a 9 cap or whatever your buy box is.
Yeah. So it's what you did there. Oh, fuck. Dude, it's genius. It is legitimately so clever. What you did is, if I'm understanding correctly, because the way that just so everybody understands, the way that commercial properties are valued, it's off of the NOI, the net operating income, and a cap rate. Depending on what the area is, it's gonna trade off a cap rate.
Right.
So whatever the market wants at that time, what area you're in, that's how it's gonna trade. So the way you get the value of a property or the purchase price of a property would be your NOI, your net operating income, divided by that cap rate. And so what our good friend Mr. Tuma did is he created a calculator where if you know the rents, or if they tell you the rents, let's say it's a 100 unit and they tell you the rents, you could put your gross rents in. He then also already has what the average expense ratio is, because to get your NOI, you need what your gross rents are, all the income you're going to have minus all your expenses. And that can be done in a ratio. When you get into the nitty gritty, you'll see different for insurance and property tax, et cetera, but that can be done in a ratio, at least for your back of the napkin numbers. So in his case, he's let's say 40%. And then it spits out under that, essentially it takes whatever gross rent input you put in. He already has the expense ratio you have. That's going to give you your NOI. And then it self-calculates from a 4 cap all the way to a 12 cap. This is the purchase price we would give. And now all of a sudden they got this cheat sheet that they can use.
So quick back of the napkin math. Exactly. When you're talking to sellers.
Which is genius, because, the way I do it, it's like, 5.5 cap. Okay, calculate that. Oh, wait, what was the gross rent again? Okay. And then you got to do it again. And you're wasting all this time. So you just, with one input, you created this nice chart, this nice sheet, and that's a great lead magnet too. Same technology. You wrote both of them out yourself.
I wrote both of them myself.
Kind of same technology, spits out the same format.
Yeah.
Come on, those aren't just little baby lead magnets. Those are legit useful lead magnets. Okay, so we've got Facebook ads, lead magnets, and still the direct personal. I mean, that's 3 heavy hitters, all now scaled in a way where you're not having to do it all just yourself.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been wanting to hit harder on the organic content. You and I have talked about this.
Yeah, dude,
you
keep
giving me crap, dude. You're like, bro, when are you going to get back on the content game, dude? You blew up and now you're just like,
what's up with that, man? Dude? You're crickets.
I know, bro. And like, I've just been so focused on the operational side of things and like the sales department within FeelPoint. It has taken up so much of my time. It's a bad excuse. It's almost like when you stop going to the gym and then you're like, oh yeah, I'm going to start next Monday. I'm going to get back in shape. I'm going to fix my diet. Dude, that's how it's became with me in content. But like, no more excuses, Dirk. I'm getting back in front of the camera. Like, we're starting right now, bro.
Yeah, you heard it here.
Come next week, dude. You're going to start seeing a lot more content.
Well, you've been dropping bombs, so I bet you we can cut some good stuff out of you for that, out of these at least for you. But you better stick to your word on this one.
This is the grand unveiling of my my content journey starting up again.
Yeah, well, when we have you back on, we'll be able to listen to this. And if you have not, I'm going to give you some major shit.
Dude, I hope you do.
I'll create a lead magnet for you to start doing some content, man. It's a podcast. Right. Good, man. Good. Well, dude, it has been a blast jumping in and unpacking the systems, the scaling, even the emotional side of like when you're trying to go through that. I appreciate you dropping bombs. I mean, for anybody that is interested in trying or already has a business, right? Like even for myself, I started to think about like, wow, how cool would it be if I have a resource now as we continue to scale, where there's going to be, no matter what, there's going to be frequently asked questions about how to run a business, the drop process, all these playbooks we've already created. But, it's so much more valuable if you do it in a system, gamify the system. So it's not just this playbook or it's not just this learning video. It's a gamified system because like Charlie Munger said, show me the incentive and I'll show you the outcome. So it's really cool. I learned that, and we're going to work really, really hard to create something similar in a way that's educational, fun, and builds team. Only other question I have for you from a system side, because then we'll close it out. But what do you use, because you're all virtual? What do you guys communicate on?
Yeah, so we used to use Slack, but dude, Slack to me feels crusty. Like it just feels very
old
corporate. Yeah, just old and just like very corporate. It doesn't seem fun, right? Like I just like
it's too crusty crap for you, dude.
Crusty, man. So I use Discord, and Discord is like its background is like for like gamers. So it's like got like all these like things in it that like just make it look more just, I don't know, new agey or whatever, just more fun. Exactly. But it has basically all the same exact functionality of Slack. And also what I like about Discord is you don't have to pay for like video conferencing calls and like voice calls. Like you can do like up to like 25 participants in a video chat for free, just on Discord's like free plan.
So Discord's the place to be if you have a virtual team.
Yeah. All of our chats, and we break it down by category of like every single category within the business. So we have a channel on marketing. So like all things related to the marketing department are all discussed there. All my marketing, individuals will chat in there. We have like a lead manager chat where like all the VAs will chat about like, what they're doing within their lead manager stuff. We have like an executive chat where it's just like the executives, it's private. So the other individuals in the company can't see it. So like we can like strategize and just like other things within the company. And it's been an amazing and a game changer for sure for communication.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, thanks for dropping the bombs, dude. I can't wait to see what content you do come up with. I'm sure it's going to be systematized and scalable. I mean, you did, because on that, how quickly you did like 6 months from zero?
Yeah, 6 months. I went from like 1,000 to like 105,000.
Okay, so if you can't go in the next 6 months from 100 to 200, there's something wrong.
Yeah, there's something wrong.
Don't you think?
Yeah, probably. And I can't blame the algorithm, because the algorithm just cares about what people want to watch.
That's all it cares about.
So you can't give excuses.
No more excuses. Well, I can't wait to watch that unfold. Thanks again for coming on. We've got some, we'll probably do some collab stuff. We've been waiting a long time to get these projects approved, but Cody and I are going to do some projects together.
Hell yeah.
Some vertical ones. So you guys will see some content coming out on that.
Some beautiful houses coming
out. They will be. And thanks for coming on, man. I really appreciate it. For anybody that wants to get in contact with you, where can they find you?
Yeah, just reach out to me on Instagram or LinkedIn. Both of them. You can just find me, Cody Tuma, CodyTuma, and just reach out to me there.
Cody dropping bombs for us. And with that, we will see you on the next one, baby.